Hello and welcome to Morning Trade with Money Control. I'm Karunya Rao and I'm here to help you navigate the trading day with actionable strategies, sectoral trends and most importantly your queries during the show. So please keep commenting on our feed and we'll have it addressed by our technical analyst. But before bringing them on board, let's see what the global handover looks like. US futures edged lower after Wall Street clocked one of its worst weeks in June. Asian markets also trading mixed ahead of major central bank meetings lined up this week. Meanwhile, SGX Nifty is flat with a negative bias. European markets ended lower amid growth fears, expectations for further rate hikes and continued volatility in the energy market, which weighed on stocks. British pound dropped below $1.14 for the first time since 1985 as a combination of dollar strength and recession warnings weighed on UK's currency. PM Modi unveils national logistics policy. Which companies stand to gain from the move? Stocks in the spotlight today will also be ACC-Ambuja, Cements, Deepak Fertilizers, LG Equipment and GHCL. Okay, we're joined by my colleague Yarukullah Khan to talk about the new logistics policy. Yaruk, thank you so much for taking time out and chatting with us. What are the big highlights of this particular policy which will be implemented from here on?
Thank you for the question, Karunya. The biggest
Okay, all right. Never mind. I think we've snapped that line with Yaruk. We'll have to reconnect with him. But meanwhile, let me just quickly flag off what exactly was announced on Saturday as part of the National Logistics Policy. Under this policy, the government aims to create a unified logistics interface platform to provide clearance for cargo movement via one clearance window. Yaruk is back. Let's touch base with him. Yaruk, you were talking about the biggest takeaway from this policy. So talk to us about it.
Right. Sorry about the disconnection. The biggest takeaway from the policy will be the creation of the unified logistics interface platform, the ULIP, which the government has called. Your ULIP will not only bring, the unorganized logistics industry, in the unorganized logistics segment in India into the whole organized framework, but will also help provide single window clearances for cargo movement across the country. That I think would be the biggest biggest pointer to look at in the national logistics policy. The second biggest highlight of the national logistics policy will be the creation of infrastructure, which will be key for the success of the national logistics pipeline. Most states in India still have very poor warehousing and storage facilities to handle cargo, and the national logistics pipeline envisions the creation of storage and warehouses all across the country in the next 5 years to reduce warehousing costs as well. The third biggest thing would be how the government is planning to switch movement of cargo away from the Indian roads, where around 60% of Indian cargo moves through road infrastructure right now, to the railways, and railways is expected to then handle around 50% of their cargo by 2030 or in the next 5 years. Timely capacity timely capacity creation in the Indian railways will be very key for the success of the national logistics pipeline policy.
Okay. So talk to us about the big beneficiaries of this announcement. Will it be core logistic companies? Is that it, or will transport, infrastructure, all of these sub-segments will also gain from this?
So obviously, the biggest logistic companies will, see direct benefits from the national logistic policy. Companies like Mahindra Logistics, All Cargo, Gateway Logistic Parks, TCA Express, Adani Transport. All of them will see, good benefits because of the policy. Because the policy envisions lowering logistics costs in the country, but companies in the railway segment also that supply containers, that supply engines to the Indian Railways will also see a good benefit because the policy aims to create more capacity for the Indian Railways as well. Similarly, infrastructure companies will also see a benefit because there are around 35 multimodal parks which are being planned under the policy So companies that will, get contracts to create these multimodal parks will also see a good benefit. Shipping companies, companies that shift to switching to movement of cargo through shipping will also see good benefit because of this scheme, because of this policy.
Okay. Now, if I look at last week's movements, there were a lot of these stocks which were buzzing away in trade, whether it's TCI Express, All Cargo, Snowman Logistics, Mahindra Logistics, you name it, and they were all looking quite upbeat ahead of this announcement over the weekend. How soon can we expect this to come into implementation? Are there any roadblocks or challenges as well that you foresee?
Well, the biggest challenge that lying ahead of the success of the national logistics policy will be the implementation. Even the Prime Minister highlighted in his speech while announcing the policy yesterday that just the policy alone will not make a big difference. It's the implementation by every ministry that will be key for the success. The creation of infrastructure in India, especially of warehouses and storage facilities, is still very, very low. And for especially for things like agri products or products that need sensitive care, that need to be stored in sensitive sensitive environments, or need to be stored in temperature controlled places, that's still very low across all states. Secondly, the creation of ULIP will be will be key, as and when the government is able to roll out the ULIP platform. That will be a very big parameter in the success of the policy. So if you look at last month, just out of the 2 crore trips that 2 crore truck trips that happened every month, just 10,000 of them were happening through online, through the online source, through an online window. So integrating that through ULIP will be key for the success of the national logistics policy.
Okay, so let's see how these roadblocks are, resolved and how soon we see the implementation of this particular policy. All eyes on this one today. Thank you so much, Yaruk, once again for joining in. Okay, let's change gears and talk about the markets technicals with Shrikant Chauhan of Kotak Securities. Morning, Shrikant. What's the trade setup telling you?
Good morning. Good morning, Karunya. Good morning, everyone. I think, very first, the markets which are under some selling pressure or liquidation pressure, they are going to find support somewhere close to 17,400 based on technicals. But while looking at the broader structure of the market, we are of the view that in the short term, when the market failed at 18,100 for twice a time, we are of the view that the market may retest the levels of 17,000 or 16,900 before the announcement of the credit policy from the US Fed. So for the week, we are expecting market to remain between 17,800 and 16,900 on the downside. But for the day, we are expecting support for the market between 17,500 to 400 levels, and we are expecting some rebound.
Okay. Before you joined, we were just talking about the new logistics policy that was announced and a host of companies and segments of the market that would benefit from it. Any of these logistic companies that look attractive to you? In fact, our viewers are also commenting and they want to know specifically about VRL and Gati. But any other names that stand out which look set on the technicals?
Yeah, in fact, all these logistic companies did extremely well in last 12 months of time. Aegis Logistic, which was around 150 levels, went to the levels of 300. All Cargo was around 300. It went to the levels of almost 450, 500. So number of stocks did well, and we are expecting further more momentum or activity from all these companies. We are specifically bullish on Aegis Logistic as well as All Cargo. Aegis Logistic, which is currently at 280, 281, is having excellent support between 280, 270 levels. We are expecting stock to move towards 350 in next few weeks. It will take time, so it's a positional buy. But certainly we should be buyer in logistic companies, and in that Aegis Logistics looks good. Also, we like All Cargo, which is around 399, 400. There also we are expecting stock to move towards 500. So it was around some 450, 460 levels 2 days back. Now it is corrected back to the important support areas. 20-day DMA is also around 360, 350 levels. So buy between 400, 380 levels 500 for the target of 500. And finally, which we like is Blue Dart. which is around 8,500 levels. There we are expecting stock to move towards 9,500. It's a decent buy at current levels, and on Friday we saw some block deal for the stock. So it's a buy at current levels, more on dips with a target of 9,500.
Okay, all right. Let's also put the spotlight on some more stocks which could be, reacting to news flow in trade today. The first names, a couple of them I want to flag off, are ACC and Ambuja. Over the weekend, another big announcement that came by is that Adani has completed acquisition of both of these companies. Essentially, they've bought a wholesome stake in Ambuja Cements and ACC, and also, this makes them the second largest cement manufacturer in the country. Talk to us about both these individual names and how they are placed on the technicals, and if you like one better than the other.
Yeah, technically, if we go through with both these counters, then both are really very, very strong. Both have formed price and volume breakout formation. Also, if we go through with delivery-based volume, then there also we saw a huge amount of upswing in last almost 15-20 days of time. So if we really want to pick any one from both of this, then Ambuja looks really good, which is around some 520 levels. We are expecting stock to move towards 600 in next maybe few weeks. It will take time, but we are expecting stock to move towards 600 gradually. And we should be buyer at current levels at 520 and more on dips close to 500 or 490. For the SAC, there also we are expecting upside, but upside looks little bit limited as compared to Ambuja.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about some fund action also, which happened on Friday. Deepak Fertilizers, the first stock that I want to flag off. Vanguard has bought close to 7 lakh shares in the company, and the seller here is Singapore-based Integrated Core Strategies, which is offloaded 7.5 lakh shares. How's Deepak Fertilizers looking at the current level?
See, based on technicals, the stock has reached to its extreme level around 1,000 in last 15-20 days of time, and after that the stock is forming some lower top lower bottom series. So we may see the levels of maybe 800 or 770 on the downside in the short term. So short term scenario for the stock is not that great. We are expecting some correction for the stock, but if there is a medium to long term view, then again we should be buyer, because currently whatever that we are seeing, it's a corrective pattern for the stock. So it is going to correct. That's the overall view from 1,000 levels to 800, but close to 800 levels we should be buyer for the target of again 1,000 and maybe 1,200 in the long run.
Okay. In fact, not just Deepak Fertilizers, but there are two more stocks where the same funds have sold and bought some shares. LG Equipments is one of them, where Vanguard has bought 1.7% stake. Again, the seller is Integrated Core Strategies. And GHCL, where Vanguard has bought 1.1% stake. So let's look at LG as well as GHCL as well. How are they looking on the chart?
See, out of both these companies, GHCL looks very strong. Based on technicals, the stock has spent almost 3 to 4 months between the levels of 750, 700, 720 on the high side and 600 or 550 on the downside. But in last 2-3 days of time, we saw the stock was crossing its upward barrier, which was around 700 levels. So from here, we are expecting stock to move towards at least 800 in next few days or few weeks. So it's a buy on dips. Currently, it is at 670. If there is any correction close to 650 or 630, then we should be buyer with a final stop loss at 600. But eventually, we are expecting stock to move towards 800 plus sort of levels. For LG, again, the overall pattern of the stock is suggesting us that it is heading higher. But currently it is into throwback mode. It was into breakout mode some few days back. After crossing the levels of 400, it went to the levels of 500, 550. But now again, it is coming back to the levels of 400. That's the view. So if there is any correction and if it is available around 400, we should be buyer.
Okay, all right. A lot of comments and queries also coming our way. So let's address them real quick. First question is from Abhilash. He wants your view on Indigo Paints. Now, currently, the stock is perched at 1600 levels, but it has cooled off a bit from its recent high of 1700 rupees. While it is trying to still crawl back to those, recent highs. Do you think now is a good time to dip in?
Yeah, it looks like the stock is stabilizing between the levels of 1800 and 1500. Since last almost 7-8 months, the stock is in the same range. So certainly it's a buy if there is a medium to long-term view. With a very short-term view, I think it is better to stay away.
Okay. In fact, since we're talking about cement companies, one of the stocks we'd like you to flag off is India Cements. Varun has written to us in his comments. How's the chart looking for India Cement?
Yeah, again, here also we saw technical breakout. In fact, almost all the cement companies did nice technical breakouts in last 15-20 days of time. But this one particularly has managed to surpass its previous high of 270, 265 with huge volumes. So from here, the stock can easily move to the levels of 320 or 330. That's the view based on its charts. And if there is any correction, then close to some 270, 260 levels, again, we should be buyer.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about HDFC Life as well. Jiffin has written to us and he wants your advice on this. Very, very slow mover, almost for a year now, while there have been some optimistic bouts of an uptick, but it hasn't been able to sustain that momentum. And in the recent past also, if we look at the stock price last 6 months, despite some highs and some recovery, it has not been able to hold on to those gains. So talk to us about the way forward from here.
Yeah, I think HDFC Life is under some liquidation pressure, and I think the merger between HDFC and HDFC Bank will keep some pressure on the HDFC Life. So if we just go through with its technicals, then stock is finding resistance around 620. The stock is having very good support between 520 and 530. So in case if we see the stock is again dropping back to the support levels, we should be buyer. But if there is any rebound in the near term, then close to 620, 630, we should be seller. So it is going to spend some more time, and unless and until the stock is not crossing and closing above 650, we are not going to see any major action.
Okay, all right. Next query is from Revant. He wants your view on CDSL and Amara Raja. Now, CDSL is one stock which keeps recurring in our live feed comments as well. It has seen a good recovery, 10-11% on the upside, but still on a larger time horizon basis, if we look at the 6-month move for that matter, it's still in the red. So do you think now is a good time to enter, or is it likely to stay a tad sluggish?
For CDSL, after this specific announcement for it, it has managed to surpass or absorb selling pressure, which was around some 1300 levels. So I think again the stock is dropping back to the same levels. Again, the strategy should be similar. If there is a medium to long-term view, then we should be buyer, because we are expecting stock to move towards 1550 or 1600 in the medium term in next 3 to 6 months of time. And if there is any correction, we should be buyer. We are of the view that all these mid-cap companies or mid-size companies which have done extremely well in the past, but now it is into now those who are into corrective mode, they should do well in the long run. So we should be buyer in CDSL with a medium term view. Okay,
all right. Let's move on to the next query. This is from Vinod Gandhre, and he wants your view on BPCL. Good momentum seen last 3 months from sub 300 levels to now, at 320, 325 odd. Talk to us about where it should go from these levels.
Yeah, currently the stock is under some selling pressure because it is finding difficulties to sustain above the mark of 350, 360. In fact, it is forming lower top, lower bottom series since last almost 1 year. And it is under pressure mainly because of the complete uncertainty on the Brent crude side. So unless and until we are not seeing any specific trend for the crude, I'm going to say for the Brent crude or specific outcome from the Fed policy, we are going to see furthermore uncertainties for the stock, and we should be seller if there is any rebound from current levels.
Okay, all right. The next query is from RB. We don't have the full name of the viewer, but he's writing to us and wants to know about the future forecast on Adani Wilmar. Very volatile move seen last 1 month. Is that going to be the trend in the near term as well?
Yeah, I think it was around some 300, 350 levels. From there, in the month of February 2022, it was around 300 levels. From there, all the way it went to 900 or 850 sort of levels in just in a span of just 2 months. So because of this stellar rally from the levels of 300 to 900 in just 2 months of time, I think the stock is into time-based correction. But the broader pattern is still suggesting us that it is gradually moving towards 900 sort of levels. It will take some more time, but eventually we are expecting stock to move towards 900. There we should look for taking some profit on long positions. And if there is a medium to long-term view, then even at current levels, we should be buyer.
Okay. We have time for one last query, so I'm going to quickly accommodate that. Rohit Gai is writing to us and wants to know the view on Varun Beverages. Perched very close to its 52-week high. Talk to us about the way forward.
Yeah, the overall pattern is extremely bullish. It is forming higher top, higher bottom series along with rising volumes, and the stock is steadily moving upward. So, which clearly indicates that we are not seeing any major correction in the near term, but eventually we are expecting stock to move towards 1400. We are expecting further more upgrades based on its overall fundamentals. The company is doing well on the fundamental side. Also, there is hardly any euphoric sort of activity in the overall technical pattern of the stock. So we should be buyer if there is any correction or even at current levels, 1100. The stock is having very good support between 1100 to 1000. On the higher side, we are expecting 1300 to 1400.
Okay. All right, I hope our viewers have taken note of all your suggestions and observations that you've shared. But before we let you go, Srikanth, why don't you tell us what are your personal picks in the market right now?
Yeah, sure. I think, we should focus on those stocks where there is a lot of activity and volume-based activity. So we like Bharat Dynamics, BDL. The stock has formed ascending triangle on daily charts, and spent a lot of time when it was into that consolidation mode. Eventually on Friday, when the market was actually down, that day the stock did breakout sort of formation, and it has managed to surpass selling pressure, which was around 900. So we are expecting stock to move towards 1000, 1020 in next few days. It's a buy at current levels with a stop loss at 880, 890 on the downside. And the other stock which we like is Maruti. The reason is because even though there was weakness in the overall auto space, we are seeing stock is outperforming. So there we are expecting some technical rebound to the levels of 9500, and we can keep stop loss around 9050 for the same.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up right here on Morning Trade. Srikanth, thank you for joining in and sharing your views with us. All right, then, it's a goodbye from our team. Thank you for watching.